Hello, so welcome to We Do Women Empowerment Defying the Odds. And my name's Irva. And today we're going to do a special edition. And I have with me Dr. Mulara Alexis. She's an infectious disease specialist. And we'll take it from there. Dr. Mulara, just tell us some things about yourself and we'll go right into the program.
Hi, Irva. Thanks for having me on your program again. Just, by way of letting those who may not know, my name is Malara Alexis. I'm an infectious disease physician. I went to medical school at St. George's University in Grenada. I did a residency in internal medicine at the State University of New York in Brooklyn, New York. And then I did a fellowship in infectious diseases at Henry Ford Health Systems in Detroit, Michigan, and now work as an infectious disease physician in Southern California.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once again, thank you for being back here. I know it's like the age-old thing, it's the age-old program, but this is the state of the world and this is where we are at this point. And this program is special and unique to me because recently I was going on a trip to Grenada. I think you were going to. But I canceled because the situation changed a little bit. Grenada was one of the islands which we were proud to say, had COVID totally under control. For the past few months, I think 6 months or so, probably more. And then recently things has changed a lot. So as we go into this questions here, I just have some questions for you. Some was sent in prior. Just tell us a little bit about, is COVID the same as a cold? Because I know there's a lot of misconceptions around that.
Yes, so there are some similarities you may see. You may get a bit of fatigue, maybe a little similarity, some stuffy nose or runny nose. But COVID is not the common cold. It's not the common cold that we know. It's more severe.
Mm-hmm.
You can get severe shortness of breath, although you can get a cough with a cold and also COVID. So there are some similarities, but there are much more differences. Very severe shortness of breath. Some people get gastrointestinal symptoms such as abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea, severe body aches. And then we know all the complications of COVID that we are hearing about. We know about the blood clots that can lead to strokes. And then we hear of kidney damage. There's so many other things there. You could have cardiovascular impact. You could have neurological damage with confusion and stroke, as we said before. So COVID is not the common cold. And so some people tend to have symptoms that they think are the cold, and they say, oh, you know what, it's just a cold, I'm not going to get tested. But anyone who has any kind of flu-like symptoms, this is the point for that person to think about not just themselves, but protecting their families and protecting their communities, to get tested as far as possible, and also to be in quarantine anytime you have any kind of symptoms, headache, body aches, any of these things. Don't just say it's the cold, because there are some things that are similar, but there are other things which are different. So get tested as far as possible if you have symptoms, but definitely isolate yourself from your family, definitely from your community if you have any kind of flu-like symptoms or any of the symptoms that can be the COVID.
Well, thanks. And thanks for talking about that, because I know even Dylan, and I'm just going to go in on Grenada a little because I'm from Grenada and speaking with family members there around this time of the year, over the years, and I've been a victim of, if I want to use the word victim, after the carnival season, there's usually a flu-like symptoms that go around in the form of like cold symptoms, right? And I know I've gotten it before too. And every year, everybody know you get that kind of cold. So do you find, so now there's a lot of people have flu-like symptoms, and it's kind of usual around this time that they might, right? Over the years. But some people are kind of equating it to, it's the flu and it's something normal that happened every year in Grenada. So thanks for bringing up, you may have similar symptoms, but you're saying to get tested once you have symptoms. Don't assume it's a cold you have, just go get tested. That's what you're saying.
And importantly, quarantine yourself. Don't, if you thought you're feeling some discomfort there, some body aches, some headaches, some people just have vomiting and diarrhea, anything at all, just isolate yourself immediately from the people that you live with, from your community, and as safely as possible get tested. I know in some countries, for example, in Grenada, there's a hotline that you're supposed to call so that people can come and test you, so you're not going out into the community to cause possible spread in the community.
Okay, and before we go back to the questions, because you talked about quarantining yourself, and I think that was one of the questions that came up. Why do you have to quarantine for 14 days? And why sometimes you're not tested? You're not required to go back to get tested after 14 days. They're like 14 days quarantine, and then you should be okay to re-enter the community. Or is that a false statement?
Okay, so generally in people who have mild to moderate COVID and who are not immunocompromised, meaning their immune system is not weakened by medication or disease, generally, if you have mild or moderate COVID, after 10 days, you're deemed to be not infectious. As long as you're not having new symptoms, you're not having a new fever, after 10 days, you're not deemed to be infectious. So it's important from the time you test positive or you get your symptoms of COVID. So some people never have symptoms, they just get a positive test. So either you have a positive test from that point, or if you have symptoms from that point, you need to quarantine yourself, because this SARS-CoV virus that causes COVID-19 is very transmissible, particularly this Delta variant that we're living around these days. And so if we are moving around with people, the risk of spreading it to other people is higher. After 10 days, we used to say 10 to 14 days, mild to moderate COVID, at that point, it's deemed not to be able to transmit it to other people. There are instances where people may need to isolate longer if they have like critical or severe COVID, or if they have a weakened immune system. But generally, mild to moderate COVID and your immune system is well and no new symptoms, after 10 days, 10 to 14 days, you should be okay. But before that, isolation. And it's difficult because we are social beings, but we do this to protect our loved ones, our communities, and our countries.
Thank you very much. So we're going to go into some questions about the vaccine. So if I've tested positive with symptoms, do I need to, so I think you addressed that. If you tested positive, you should isolate. Yes, perfect. Can I take the vaccine if I have diabetes, hypertension, or asthma?
So a very common misconception people have is like, if I have some kind of chronic illness, I cannot take the vaccine. Now, we know a contraindication to the vaccine is if you're allergic to any component in the vaccine. We can go to the CDC website and find the ingredients of the vaccine. If we're allergic, when we say allergic, we mean a severe allergy with shortness of breath, swelling of the lips, blood pressure going low. You should not get the vaccine in that case. You should not. But there are people who feel that, I have diabetes, I have high blood pressure, I have asthma, I have COPD. We are saying as medical people, as infectious disease physicians and all physicians, that these conditions, diabetes, asthma, COPD, being overweight, these conditions make you more susceptible to getting a very severe case of COVID if you get the virus. So if you have diabetes, that is not a contraindication. In other words, that is not an excuse not to get it. Now, I know everyone's case may be different. Maybe you're diabetic and you're using a medication for another condition that could weaken your immune system. You have your conversations with your doctor as to when is the best time to get the vaccine. But just to assume, because I have diabetes, because I have high blood pressure, I have asthma, I have COPD, I have kidney disease, I have heart disease, I cannot take it, that is not correct. We are in these conditions put you at higher risk, and these are the people especially who should get it. Now, we do understand that people may have concerns. You can speak to your physician regarding the best timing, because, for example, you may be on a medication for, say you're diabetic and you're on insulin, that you can get the vaccine. But suppose you're on a high dose of, say, steroids or some other methotrexate for some other condition that could suppress your immune system. Your physician would advise you as the best timing to get it. But again, just being diabetic, hypertensive, heart disease, kidney disease, that is not a reason not to get it. these
Perfect.
people should be the first ones to get it.
Perfect. So thanks for clearing that up because I hear that a lot. I have asthma, so I'm not going to take it. But you're saying these are the people that should be getting it. It should be in the lines first to get it. And, perfect. Perfect. So thank you for that. If I take the vaccine, do I need to take more doses? So I'm guessing booster shots, because we hear a lot about that now. Some vaccines you have to get boosters.
Right. So for people who are immunocompromised, whether you have HIV, whether maybe you have lupus and you're on high dose steroids, or your patient with cancer and chemotherapy and so forth, it has been found that you need 3 doses in order for your body to produce the kind of response that it needs to be able to address this COVID if you come into contact with the SARS-CoV virus. So if your immune system is weakened by a disease such, cancer, you're on chemotherapy, lupus, you're on methotrexate, HIV, or any other condition, 3 doses are needed in order for your immune system to produce the response that we would like to be able to address this situation with COVID-19. Generally, people who are not immunocompromised with the Janssen vaccine, so far we know it's 1 dose, AstraZeneca 2 doses, Pfizer 2 doses, Moderna 2 doses. Right now, studies are underway to determine about this booster dose. If you need another dose to be able to address maybe the waning response, there's a thought that possibly after a certain period of time, your immune response from the vaccine may start to decline. And we have heard that in the news about a possible booster dose. And right now, we understand that the FDA and also the CDC's ACIP, they are looking into the booster doses. So we will get more information shortly about booster doses for people who do not have a weakened immune system. But if you do have a weakened immune system, we speak to our doctors about getting that 3rd dose.
So that doesn't mean, and I know because we got, like I always say, tetanus shots, we get booster doses too. So that doesn't mean though that the first and the second dose of Pfizer, for example, is not working, or the vaccines don't work because now we got to take a 3rd possible booster, and those sort of stuff. It doesn't mean that the vaccine is not working.
No, it does not mean. And we are familiar with vaccines that we have to take more than 1 shot. So this is nothing new. It is nothing new. And even with the influenza virus, we know you have to take 1 every year. So different viruses and bacteria for them have their different schedules. It doesn't mean that the first one was not protective for that period of time.
And thank you for talking about the influenza, because yes, every year you do get a shot for some sort of flu, and it's usually, I think it's a variant. Every year is not the same one, it's not the one from last year that would come, right? So thanks for talking about that.
Yes, and so with the COVID vaccine, it may not end up being once a year, but for now, it may be a 3rd booster shot. Let's wait and see what we hear.
Okay, and can I take a brand of vaccine? Can you take one brand for a first dose and a different brand for a second dose? Is there any issues with that?
Well, generally, the recommendation is whatever vaccine you start with, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, you finish with it. The J&J is just 1 shot. But the others, is recommended as far as possible to, if you start with Pfizer, to end with it. There have been instances where a person may not be able to get the same one. And in these extreme circumstances, if you cannot get the Pfizer for whatever reason as a second dose, you may need to use another one, but that's not ideal. Now, as of this point, we are in right now that I'm talking to you, so far, the CDC is not recommended to mix doses.
Okay.
Down the line, we never know how things may change, but as of this point, that's not the strongest recommendation. It's recommended to use them the way they were studied, keeping with the same brand.
Okay, so the person out there who's got 2 different doses, does that mean they're not protected, or they're somewhat protected, or is something going to happen to their body health-wise?
Right. So I read this article talking about where they were mixing doses and they saw some good immune response. We are not saying that it's not working and the person is not protected. We are just saying when a treatment course is recommended, it's normally recommended the way it was studied. So the Pfizer study was studied, a Pfizer for the first dose, a Pfizer for the second. Moderna was Moderna for the first, Moderna for the second. They didn't study it mixed. So what we are saying here is that we have studied Pfizer as a complete dose and we know it works. We are offering it to you. We cannot recommend at this point mixing because we haven't studied it like that. We don't know down the line data will change on that, but now we can only present to you how we have studied it. And that's why we are saying that.
Wow. Okay. So thanks for clearing that up because that's been a hot topic too. So it's not because it doesn't work. We don't have the answer to that. You're saying it was studied of Pfizer and AstraZeneca and AstraZeneca. So that's the data that's available right now. They weren't mixing doses.
Yes.
Perfect. And next question. People who took the vaccine got COVID. Is that correct? So can you get COVID after you've taken the vaccine?
Yeah. So unfortunately, we all know about these variants, the Delta variant. So first of all, no, the vaccine is not 100% effective. And I don't think somebody can say every vaccine is 100% effective. So that's number one. There's no vaccine that's 100% effective. So that's why there are some people who would end up getting COVID, even with the vaccine. And number two, there are some people who have so many comorbidities, again, that also could impact on how the body responds after being in contact with the SARS-CoV virus. And number three, with the variant, the Delta variant, it sometimes could evade to a certain extent the protection that the body built up. So when these vaccines were produced, the Delta variant was not in operation yet. Had very good protection against the original SARS-CoV virus, and then the Alpha variant and so forth and so forth. By the time we get to the Delta, what we are seeing is that the ability of the vaccine to prevent somebody getting COVID has reduced a little bit with the Delta, but it's still effective in preventing severe disease and hospitalization. So to kind of summarize that, what we are saying, there's no vaccine that's 100% effective. So you would have some breakthrough cases. And then with the variants, it sometimes reduces the ability of the vaccine to prevent the disease. But even though some of these vaccines, the ability to prevent the disease with the Delta variant has reduced somewhat, it is still very effective in reducing severe COVID. It is still very effective in reducing the chance of going to the hospital. They are still very effective on the chance of reducing one's chance of getting onto a ventilator in the ICU. So even though you have breakthrough cases, generally very effective, still very effective in reducing severe disease and going to the hospital and ended up on a ventilator and passing away, dying.
Okay, so I'm going to throw in a question, and I don't know if you can answer it, but I know you're practicing as we speak. You came from work probably earlier on. People, what are the cases like in the hospital when you're setting? Do you find it's equal amount of vaccinated people that are sick, or it's more unvaccinated people? Can you give us any? You don't have to give us the numbers, but just an idea of what's happening.
Very good. I'm so happy you asked that question. In the hospitals where I'm at, working here, the majority of patients who come to the hospital needing oxygen, who end up in the ICU and in the ventilator, are unvaccinated patients. Yes, we find some who are partially vaccinated and vaccinated, but generally the vast majority are unvaccinated people. And not only here where I am practicing, again, I was reading a report from the MMWR from CDC in New York. They are seeing that the number of people getting COVID from the period May to July was greater in those who were unvaccinated. I read a report talking about Los Angeles County in California. From May 1 to July 25th, there were about 43,000 people who got COVID. And of that, 30,000 and a little over that were unvaccinated. In England, from Public Health England, we are seeing both the Pfizer and the AstraZeneca are very effective, over 90% in reducing hospitalization. Again, I got some data from University Hospital of University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Jamaica. They were saying the capacity was full, and 96.1% of those people there in the hospital in Mona, Jamaica were unvaccinated. Vaccination works. Whatever you have available, AstraZeneca, Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, please take it. They work.
Perfect. Thanks. And here in Canada, I mean, I'm not a medical, well, not a medical professional, not a doctor or anything like that, but I do follow the news and I do some reading, and even following Grenada news because I've been following it quite closely, listening to the Minister of Health and so forth. It seems though the science points to most of the cases are unvaccinated people. So, and I think there were one death I believe I heard last week or this week in Grenada that was vaccinated, but it was an older person with comorbidities. So it seems that the science is pointing to, yes, if you're vaccinated, the symptoms or the chances of you ending up in ICU or something like that is less.
Yes, with the Delta variant, it's working still. It's still working.
Perfect. Okay. And so the next question, does the vaccine destroy our immune system? Can I just take, so I'm kind of going to do it two parts. And can I take an immune system supplement?
No, the vaccine does not destroy the immune systems. All vaccines that we know, whether it's polio, MMR vaccine, any vaccine doesn't destroy the immune system. What it does, it introduces or it familiarizes the body with the virus or whatever the pathogen is, so that when we come into contact with it, we have already conditioned our body to be able to fight it off. So in the case of the COVID vaccines here, we are given the body information as how to make the protein that's present on the surface of the SARS-CoV virus, the virus that causes COVID. So it's just that protein, so our body gets familiar with it. So it produces antibodies and it produces killer cells to work on it. So when we come into contact with the actual virus, our body has been primed. So it primes the immune system. It doesn't destroy it. I always believe that we should do the best for our immune system. We should have a diet that is rich. It's a plant-based diet, because we know plant-based diets rich in phytochemicals you get from all these vegetables that God has made for us. That can help the immune system. People take vitamin D, calcium, and things like that. Whatever you can take to help your immune system, that's good. And I as a physician, I highly subscribe a plant-based diet, which is rich in phytochemicals. That you get the good fats, you don't get the saturated fats. You stay away from sugars, you get exercise, you sunlight. All these things boost the immune system, but that alone cannot stop the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why we are thankful to God for vaccines.
Perfect. Thank you. So you're saying we have to do a healthy part too. We got to take care of ourselves, whether it was COVID or not. We should always try to boost our immune system. A healthy diet, a plant-based diet, get all the vitamins and all the good nutrients that's out there. And we still need the vaccine for this virus, in addition to doing our part.
Yes, and that's correct.
Okay. And how did the vaccine become available so quickly? And that's a question that's a concern actually that a lot of people have.
Right. Very good question. So generally in the past, the vaccines that we are familiar with are either a weakened form of the virus or a killed form of the virus, So for example, with the smallpox vaccine, it's a weakened form that you get that virus that causes whatever causes the disease, you get it, and then you weaken it and you introduce it into the person's body. Or it's either a killed form of the virus. So you get the virus, you kill it, you introduce it in the person's body, and so the body is able to make a response. So those are the traditional vaccines. And for example, the MMR vaccine, that's where you use a weakened form. And then, for example, with the killed vaccine, like the polio and the rabies vaccine, those are killed. So you kill the organism that's causing the disease. So in order to make these vaccines, it's a longer process. You have to get the original virus or whatever it is. Then you have to go to the lab and multiply it, and then you kill it or you weaken it. That will take time. These newer vaccines, the technology is faster. So for example, the mRNA vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna, what you're doing, you're giving the person's body instructions to make the protein present on the surface of the virus. So you don't have to depend on multiplying all the viruses and then weakening or killing it, but you use instructions in the mRNA. So the body is making that protein. And that's a faster technology. So the technology is faster. The second thing, although this technology is faster, and it's the first time we have had an mRNA vaccine, it wasn't just discovered in 2019. If you look back in scientific research, you will see that mRNA technology has been around for years and years. It's the first time we have the mRNA vaccine, but the technology has been studied for years. The viral vector vaccines, of which we have we have the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Janssen vaccine. This also has been studied for years. As a matter of fact, we have an Ebola virus vaccine that has the same technology as the AstraZeneca and Janssen vaccine. So the technology is not new. So one, the technology is not new. It has been studied before. Two, it's faster technology. And the third thing is that, so in order to give approval for the vaccine, you need to do 3 steps, 3 phases where you give to people to see if it's effective and if it works. If it's effective, if it works, if it's safe. And instead of doing it the traditional way of doing phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, they overlap the phases. So you had phase 1 and 2 together, and then you had phase 2 and 3 together. So again, we got it quickly because the technology is a faster technology. 2, it's first time we have an mRNA vaccine, but the technology behind it has been studied for years. Again, the viral vector vaccines, we have had the Ebola vaccine, which has the same technology as AstraZeneca and Janssen vaccine. And so that again is not new. And then 3 phases were overlapped.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, because yes, there are some ideologies out there that's saying that one, the COVID, they give us a shot of the actual COVID, the COVID virus, and there's a lot of noise, if I want to use the word, about this is new and this is the vaccine is something new. And I know also someone had mentioned, because the FDA only recently approved the vaccines, I think Pfizer was recently approved and stuff, people were concerned, were we getting vaccines that were not approved? But I think you had addressed that previously, because they were approved on an emergency basis. It doesn't mean that they were good. So can you just elaborate on that, the emergency use versus now being FDA like fully approved?
Yes, very good question. Emergency approval. So before something is approved on an emergency basis, you do have to study them. So you can't just say, oh, it's a COVID, just take anything, and if it works, it works, and if it kills people, it does. No, that is not how it goes. You study it. So you still have to do trials, and you have to do 3 parts. When we say phases, 3 parts to the trials. And in these trials, you're looking to see, is it effective? Does it work to prevent people from getting COVID? And is it safe? So they still had to do the trials to make sure they were effective. They still had to do the trials to make ssure they were safe. And then the FDA, or whichever governing body in the countries that are making the vaccines, here in the United States, the FDA, in United Kingdom, they have their own governing bodies and so forth. They look at the data. And when they're able to see that the benefit of this vaccine is much greater than any risk, that's when you can give an emergency approval. Yes, so it's not the same as a fully FDA authorized, but they have sufficient data to say that the benefit is much greater. It's much, much greater than any risk that we can have here.
So then, okay, so now that it's FDA approved, I guess that's much, much better. What does that mean for us though? Now, when it gets to the phase where it's FDA approved. So first, the emergency use was saying the benefits were greater. Now they're FDA approved. What does that mean for us?
So when now they're FDA approved, so the FDA got more information. So on the emergency approval use, they had information to say that the benefit is greater than the known risk. But in order to get the full approval, you need now longer follow-up data. And so now that the FDA had more long-term follow-up data, they were satisfied that they could fully approve the Pfizer vaccine. They had enough data. But at the point that it got the emergency approval, there was still enough information at that point to say that the benefit is greater than the risk. They were not saying, okay, it's a COVID pandemic, so something is going to kill you, so let's just give you this and kills you. No, they do. We do. That's not how it's done. At the point they got emergency approval, the benefit far outweighed any risk, and that's why they got emergency approval.
Perfect. And I'm going to throw in, I don't know if this is a time for humor, but I know there was, there's something, and it's not really humor, but you could, I mean, it's, you laugh sometimes. We need some mental health, perks sometimes, right? There's a little thing that I see going around on WhatsApp saying the state of the world at this point is that the vaccinated are waiting the unvaccinated to die, and the unvaccinated are waiting the vaccinated to die, because, they're saying the vaccinated are going to die. But I'm glad that you explained, though, it doesn't mean that they were saying because it's a pandemic, go ahead and just vaccinate people, 50-50 chance. They were still saying we had enough data to say
Right.
it's safe. Now we have more data, there's enough vaccines and stuff to say this is definitely safe.
Right. Yes. You don't just, you don't just say, well, COVID is going to kill them, or COVID will kill us all, so let's just use anything quickly, and maybe that might be better. You still have to have enough data to show that the benefits are better than the risk.
Perfect. So thank you for clearing that up. And that will lead me to another question, and we're wrapping up soon. The long-term effects of COVID. Are there any long-term effects of the vaccine? Sorry.
Yeah. So I went to that side effects and long-term effects. So generally, the side effects are the effects that you get with any vaccine, whether some people get pain at the injection site, some pain and tenderness. Some people get headache, nausea. You feel like you're getting a flu. You feel your weakness, things like that. These are general side effects of vaccines. Now, with the Pfizer, the mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, there has been seen to be a possible link between those and myocarditis. And some people use this as an excuse. But if I was doing my research, I came to understand that the risk of myocarditis, pericarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle, or pericarditis, inflammation of the sac around the heart. So the rate of myocarditis with a vaccine, with these mRNA vaccine, is about 1 to 5 in 100,000. So for every 100,000 persons you give this vaccine, maybe average of 2 or so may get it. But with COVID, the rate of myocarditis is 11 to 100,000. So meaning for every 100,000 people that gets COVID, about 11 get this myocarditis. So even though you have a small risk with these mRNA vaccines, it is much less than with COVID. Again, with the viral vector vaccines, which are AstraZeneca and Janssen vaccine, we have understood that there's a risk with blood clots. But again, risk of blood clots with these vaccines is much less than with COVID. Again, I was doing some research, and what for example, blood clots in the head from the vaccine, it's about 2.5 to every 100,000. So say the population of Grenada is about 100,000. So for every 100,000, about 2.5 may get. But now with the COVID itself, you find that you get 42.8 per every million. So the rate is much higher.
Yeah, much higher, yeah.
And I did 100,000 to a million. They don't equate in the way I said it, but when you break it down, you can still see that the risk of getting a blood clot. Yeah, and I have seen them, young people having clots from COVID leading to strokes. You get blood clots in the lungs, in the legs. The rate of blood clots with COVID is much higher. Even a small risk of Guillain-Barré, these things are rare. They are not very common. And in terms of long-term effects, so generally, after the first, at least, definitely within the first year, the majority of any effects of a vaccine would be known. These trials have started about a little over a year ago, because we're now into September. And generally, find out the effects of the vaccine within the first few months, and generally within the first year at least. So I think that coming to this year break, this year interval, that we can safely say that we know how these vaccines work, and the side effects, we know what they are. Perfect. No one is saying down the road you may not find something, but it's very rare that 5-10 years down the road you find something. These vaccines do not cause infertility. People are concerned about that. They do not cause infertility. I meet a lot of women who are concerned, can I have this vaccine because I am pregnant, I'm trying to get pregnant, and they advise their their husband, and so don't take the vaccine because, we are trying to get pregnant here. That is not correct. These vaccines do not affect fertility, and they do not affect pregnancy. I was reading an article in New England Journal of Medicine, and they have what call these safety monitoring systems for, so they got these women who were pregnant who got the vaccines, about over 35,000 of them. And after reviewing the data in these monitoring systems, they found that there was no obvious safety signal for the vaccine. In other words, they did not find that giving the vaccine would cause a problem in pregnancy, like, losing the baby, a miscarriage, term labor. So far from the data we are seeing here, they do not affect the pregnancy. And what we do know is that pregnant people who do get COVID stand a greater chance of having preterm labor, complications such as sepsis and stillbirth. So it's worse to get COVID in pregnancy. And so far the data we are seeing, a little over 35,000 women who were pregnant, they did not see any safety problems for the pregnancy for these women who got the vaccine.
So you're talking, and since you're on the topic of women, quickly, I'm going to ask, how about breastfeeding women? Is it safe?
Wonderful. I'm glad you asked. I should have said that when you take the vaccine, you produce these proteins called antibodies against the virus. And when you are breastfeeding, these antibodies are in the breast milk. And so you're doing your baby a great benefit, because in the breast milk now, when you took the vaccine, in the breast milk would be these antibodies, and the baby now acquires these antibodies, which will be a benefit to the baby. So great news for all breastfeeding women.
I know we have a generation of kids that's coming up that's gonna be safe, hopefully. So a few more questions. I think, let me just see here. I wrote them down just so I wouldn't miss anyone's question or not forget. So we talked about the long-term effects. Does the vaccine have any tracking device? And I know I saw videos going around. I don't subscribe to them, but they come through your WhatsApp, where people, when they got the vaccine, were putting magnets on their hand and, saying it's magnetic. Some people say it has tracking devices and all this stuff. So are those just myths?
They are not correct. People used to say there's some enzyme in it, luciferase, and some that is not correct. There is no chip in the vaccine. It cannot track you. The ingredients of these vaccines are fully available to the public. You go to the the CDC website, you are able to see in terms of AstraZeneca, you go to Public Health England. I'm sure they will be able to show us, the ingredients. I myself looked them up. I was able to get them. And it's basically the mRNA vaccines, a piece of mRNA, and then it's like salts and sugars and things like that. Some have acid. There is no tracking device. People are saying the mark of the beast. It is not the mark of the beast. So the mark of the beast has to do with worship. It has to do with a person making a conscious decision to disobey God, not to follow God and his law in the way he's asking us to do it. It's a conscious decision. It's not like, okay, I pick up this pen and this pen is the mark of the beast, or I get this vaccine, and then 2 years down the road, somebody says, oh, you know what? You can get the mark of the beast now because you got the vaccine. God is a God of love. He is not going to allow people to be tricked into getting the mark. It's a conscious decision that a person is making. I will not obey God the way he's asking me to obey him, and not keep his heart the way he's asking me to do it. It is not the mark of the beast. The COVID vaccine is not the mark of the beast.
It's just the vaccine.
Yes, I took the COVID vaccine, and I would not get in the mark of the beast.
And so have I. I've taken the COVID vaccine, and I'm positive I would not take the mark, or that I'm not carrying the mark of the beast by accident, But thank you for telling us, it's not. It's a conscious decision that you make, and and God is a loving God. He's not going to have somebody trick you into taking the mark of the beast and then lose your soul. So thanks for clearing that up. Another question, because there's a lot of variants now, and I think I saw someone had asked about the MU strain, and I think it's in St. Vincent. I think today I read it's they're looking into it in Jamaica. Do you know anything about the MU strain?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So there are some variants which are variants of concern. The one that we are most concerned about right now is the Delta. And we have had other variants such as the Alpha, the Beta, the Gamma variants. These are variants of concerns where we know that it's causing significant disease. These are the variants. These are classified by the World Health Organization as variants of concern, that Delta, the Alpha, the Beta, the Gamma. Now, the mu variant, which was discovered in Colombia, I believe in January this year, and the lambda in Peru, these are variants of interest, meaning that we know they're there. They are circulating in some places, but at this point, they have not caused this widespread disease as we have seen, for example, the alpha. So the first variant, the first SARS-CoV virus is what you call, the original one is the wild type. And then you have variants. It just means that the proteins that you see on the surface of the virus, the amino acids in the proteins change a bit. That's why you're called variants. So the alpha, the beta, the gamma, the delta, these are variants of concern according to the World Health Organization. They have caused significant disease in the past. The mu and the lambda, they have caused disease. But at this point, thankfully, they have not caused the widespread disease that we have seen, for example, with Delta and the Beta variants and so forth. So we are to keep an eye on them. We will wait to see what information we get about them. But at this point, they are not causing such destruction as, for example, the Delta. But we definitely want to keep our eyes on them.
Perfect.
Also to say, vaccination helps in reducing the production of variants because everyone gets vaccinated. It means that the virus stays less in circulation and has less chance to multiply. So if everyone gets vaccinated, it therefore means, well, we know that some people at this point cannot, because for young children, under 12, they cannot, we don't have a vaccine for them. And some people have, severe allergies and so forth. But what we are saying is the greater, excuse me, I think my battery is about to die. So I'm just going to plug in my phone because
that's fine. Technology is good, but it has its downside.
Yes. So the sooner we get vaccinated, it means this SARS-CoV virus stays a shorter time in circulation, and we can, or let me say it another way, which probably easier to understand. This way I'm saying it is kind of tied up. The sooner we get vaccinated, the sooner we can get this virus under control and the less chance it has to make more variants. So if we continue to resist vaccination, if people continue to resist vaccination, we are giving the virus a longer opportunity to be in circulation and change and mutate and make all kinds of variants. And we have possibilities of getting variants even with more severe consequences than Delta and other variants that we are seeing here. So let's get vaccinated quick so we can get this pandemic under control.
So what I think I understand from what you're saying, the more the virus is in circulation and we're not inoculating ourselves against it, the chances of it having time to mutate is greater. And sometimes mutations are specific to places. But you're saying there are different strains of there, but some are not concerning yet. They're not widespread, they're not causing disease or a lot of symptoms or stuff as yet.
Yeah, so some Delta and Beta, Gamma, they have caused a lot of disease. Nobody needs to tell us about Delta. Delta is doing a work on the planet. So these are classified by the World Health Organization as variants of concern. We are all concerned about what they're doing. The mu and the lambda are considered by the World Health Organization as variants of interest, meaning that we are not ignoring them. We are keeping a close eye on them because we know that they are there. They have caused disease. They are causing disease. But at this point that I'm speaking to you, they have not caused this kind of widespread disease as we are seeing, for example, with the Delta. But, if we vaccinate ourselves, more people vaccinate ourselves, we get this virus under control, and the possibility of it making more variants decreases more and more the more people get vaccinated.
Okay, perfect. And yes, it is the mu. I said mu. So thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. And I think because I have been following the Grenada news a lot, I heard one of the doctors saying that vaccination is the way to go to stop the variants, stop the virus from mutating.
Right.
So hopefully we can we've cleared up some questions and some concerns that everyone is having. I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to say that some people ask about getting the vaccine after COVID.
Yes.
So yes, that's important because so after you get COVID, the body has a bit of immunity to this virus. So, if I get COVID now, my body would have built up some kind of protection. But again, we don't know how long this protection lasts. That's why we're saying even not when you're actively battling the disease, you get vaccinated, but after you've recovered, we are still saying, please go ahead and get vaccinated because the natural immunity that my body made from getting this COVID, we don't know how long it lasts. And also we are seeing that people who have COVID with no symptoms and people who have mild COVID, that the immune response to this COVID is in most cases not as good as if you got vaccinated. So if you get like very severe disease where you're in the ICU, what the data is showing that it looks as if the immune response from a severe case of COVID may be better than if you have mild COVID or COVID with no symptoms. So again, we are saying, even though you have COVID, once you have recovered and you're out of isolation, you should get vaccinated because we don't know how long the natural immunity lasts. And again, especially in people who have had mild COVID or COVID with no symptoms, the response that their body makes to this virus in what we are seeing from the initial data is not as good as the response that is produced from vaccination. So again, even though I have COVID, I don't say, well, I've had it before, that's it, I don't need to get vaccinated. Yes, it would provide some protection for a while. We don't know how long that lasts. And again, we don't know if in the data, some of the data we are seeing is that immunity, particularly with mild COVID and COVID without symptoms, it's not as elaborate as with the vaccine. I have some data I can produce, but it would be too elaborate and too long. But this is the conclusion here that we are seeing so far from the data at hand.
So I'm going to ask you I'm just going to say two things before I wrap up. So one, if somebody has COVID, how long should they wait before taking the vaccine? And two, why is there a window that you have to wait? I think they'll say after you're not fully vaccinated until I think it's 14 days after for your second dose, for example, because I took Pfizer. They would say, like even for traveling, they'll say wait 2 weeks after your second dose before you travel.
Yeah, so for the Johnson vaccine, which is a 1 dose, you need to wait 2 weeks. And for the AstraZeneca, the Moderna and the Pfizer, you need to wait 2 weeks after the second dose. And the reason for that is that the way it has been studied, we know that after 2 weeks of a 1 dose vaccine, such as J&J, or 2 weeks of a 2 dose vaccine, as the others that have mentioned, that's when your body has produced the good response, the maximum response. For the 2 week period of time, your body is working on the response. So by this 2 week period of time, 14 days, that's when we understand that the response, the immune response is really primed to go.
Perfect.
Another question about, so again, you don't get the vaccine when so the vaccine it's not a treatment for COVID. So if I have COVID, I don't say, well, let me go and get the vaccine now because I have it. It's not a treatment. What it does, it prevents or protects the body so that if you come in responsive, your body already knows about it and it knows how to fight it. So it's not something that is recommended to be given during an active case of COVID. But after you recovered and you're out of isolation, you can go ahead and get it. Some people wait a little while, because you have a little natural immunity, but you should at some point, definitely, and at least within 3 months, get that vaccine, even if you've had the COVID before.
Perfect. And I know I said that was the last thing, but one more thing. Can cold, because I know just in talking to, people, can using cold remedies, I hear terms floating around like a cold bomb where they put all those little things together. Can using cold remedies while you have the COVID lessen the symptoms? Like, all the things we use, lemon and, honey and those sort of stuff. Can that lessen the symptoms of COVID once you contracted it?
Yeah, so people use Tylenol for fever. Sometimes you get headache, you use Tylenol, or you use some cough medicine. So these can treat the symptoms. But if you are talking about a medicine to actually attack the virus, things like Tylenol or whatever cold syrup, that they do not attack the virus. They help with the symptoms.
The symptoms,
so
okay.
COVID-19, when someone is sick to the extent that they need to go to the hospital for oxygen, things that have been shown to work, things like dexamethasone, remdesivir, and in severe cases, there are other things like actarma, tocilizumab, baricitinib, which are, so the remdesivir and the Decadron, these are like first-line treatments. And then you have other medications with emergency authorization, such as actarma, tocilizumab, and baricitinib, and so that, you can use. So Decadron, remdesivir, these are what have been shown to help, to reduce the chance of mortality, chance of dying. But again, if you use Tylenol and these different things, they may help with some fever, they may help with some headache. And so, so I'm not saying don't use them. I mean, if you have a headache, you have COVID and you have a headache, you use some Tylenol, if you use some cough syrup. And so if some people take steam baths and all of these things, they can help with the symptoms. But I want to be clear in that they are not per se attacking the virus.
Perfect, perfect. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Alexis. Anything you want to say in closing before I give my little wrap up?
Yeah. I just want to quickly say, because I don't think I said it, a lot of people have a confusion about these vaccines, how they work. So the mRNA, which is Pfizer, Moderna, the mRNA, you are given the person instructions in how to make that protein present on the cell. So when you inject it, it goes into the body, my cell picks it up, it reads the instructions, and it makes that protein. And then this mRNA is destroyed. It does not live in the body, doesn't integrate into the DNA. Okay, so it gives instructions on making this protein present on the virus, and then it's destroyed. The viral vector proteins, Janssen and AstraZeneca, these ones, you use a weakened form of a cold virus and you put the instructions in it and you give it to the person. The body picks it up. That one is a little different from the mRNA. The mRNA one doesn't go in the nucleus. These ones are a bit different in that it does. But again, this one is not integrated into the DNA. It doesn't remain in the body, go to some part, my brain, whatever, and live for 1,000 years. I don't live 1,000 years. It doesn't live on.
You may.
So I just want to put that out there for people who are very concerned. This is basically how it works. It does not remain in the body. So thank you for taking time, spending time with us today as we talk about the vaccines. We want to do the best we can. Masks. We must talk about using the mask. We have to use the mask, social distancing, washing our hands with water and for sanitizers, at least 60-65% alcohol, surfaces that we commonly touch, cleaning them down, doing all the protocols, taking care of our bodies, a plant-based diet, staying away from all of this sugar and a lot of the animal products, high in saturated fat, not good for the immune system, doing all of these things. Trust in God. I trust God. I trust, but He gave people wisdom to use the vaccine, and what gives people wisdom to do, I go along with it. God bless you as you make that important decision, and may He protect you and your family. Thank you for spending time with us.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Alexis, and you basically wrapped it up. I did want to say also, though, I'm just going to touch on a few things that you said. And thank you for giving us all the protocols, just the safety protocols, and follow if the best you can, the law if you land. Just because we've been in lockdown, I think Canada had the longest lockdown, they said, in the world. So to all my fellow listeners and viewers there, I know what comes with lockdown. We have mental health issues that does come with it. People who are in the tropics, though, you have the luxury of still being able to go outside your house. So utilize what you have to keep yourself mentally safe, because mental health is real, especially in these times, and lockdown could be frustrating on a number of levels, financially and mentally. So go outside, within the confines of whatever the law provides you. Take a walk around your yard, reach out to your neighbor with social distance, talk over the fence, use your devices, your WhatsApp, do a Zoom play date, with your neighbor, play some games via Zoom, whatever you need to do to stay healthy mentally and still maintaining all the safety protocols that's out there. It's not political, it's not a scam, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's real. The vaccination, as Dr. Alexis explained, thoroughly. Thank you very much. It's not a mark of the beast. No one's trying to get you. There's no lies or falsities to it. In 10 years, you're not going to grow a limb. And, at least the data doesn't show that right now. So it's
you're not going to grow.
No, you're definitely not going to grow a limb. And also I just want to reach out, to people who, there are lots of seniors and stuff in our communities who, when we go into lockdown and this stuff, can't fend for themselves and need help. So still within the confines of staying safe, reach out to your seniors, reach out to people with disabilities, help them, even if you got to leave some food on their step or just, a quick hello from down the street, just to check in and make sure everybody stays COVID safe and mentally safe also. And I see you're getting close. So I'm thinking you want to say something, Dr. Alexis.
Well, I want you to finish, and I just wanted to end with a little prayer. We just want to pray for those people who have been affected by COVID in one way or the other. As Grenadians, we just want to remember our island, Spice Island, at this time as they go through this challenging time. But you do finish, and then we can.
So I was almost finished, and I was going to say, as a parent myself, I did my part. I got vaccinated. The children, if you have children that are the age to get vaccinated, do so. Send them out to school. I always send my kids with a prayer. Now I pray for 10,000 angels to keep COVID at bay from their class, from their school, and take them home safely. So you still pray for protection always, to protect you and your family. And now we'll have you do the prayer to end.
Thank you. Before I do, I want to thank you over my college buddy. I want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to share with people that I know, and I'm sure this video would go to people that I don't know. But I thank you so much for giving me the platform to do that. And I just want to end as we pray God gives people wisdom to make this important decision, because He has given us people knowledge to make the vaccine. So we are just wanting to pray. We want to pray for comfort for those who have lost family members and those who are struggling with COVID. It has touched let me say it like this. I don't think there's anybody on the planet who has not been affected in one way or the other, some more severely than others, but everyone has felt the effects of COVID. And particularly, we want to remember those who have been touched with illnesses and who have lost loved ones. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Parents, we encourage you to get children vaccinated. The Pfizer is available for them. So as you can, please do that. We're doing them a great service. It's great for children.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Dear God, thank you for giving us this chance to just share this knowledge that you have given to us with friends and even people who I may not even know. I just want to pray in a special way for those who are grieving the loss of loved ones, those who are struggling with COVID even now, and healthcare workers who feel overwhelmed and just frustrated mentally, physically. Be with them all. Be with us all. Give us wisdom, Lord, to see how your hand is leading us. We thank you for this vaccine, and we just pray for everyone. We remember all our friends everywhere, people in North America, South America, in the continent of Africa, in Asia, in the islands of the South Pacific, in the Middle East. We just remember people everywhere. Remember the Caribbean islands. We lift up our country, Grenada, in a special way, Lord. And be people there blessed. And thank you for all that you're doing for us. Help us to be ready for your soon coming. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you for viewing, and pass this on. This is really information and free information that we get. Thank you so much, Dr. Alexis. Guys, please, we do care a lot about you guys. We do care about Grenada. Our hearts, our prayers consistently goes out. The world is there. We've been there. We know what it's like. Stay strong. God is in control still. Remember to view, remember to like, remember to subscribe, pass it on to a friend, pass the video on, pass the information on. It's not about the video. We want the information to go out there. So pass this information on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you have a question, put it on the link below and we'll get back to you. God bless you all, wherever you are, North America, South America, Caribbean. God bless you. God loves you.
Thank you very much.